Somewhere in Siberia. For the third time that morning, Pops had stopped the truck. "There's still something wrong, Graham. Can you have another look at the brakes?" 8 sets of wheels means a lot of brakes, but Graham, undaunted, jumped down and started crawling under the truck and trailer, checking all the wheels and brakes. It had been a sunny morning, which meant the road, really just a track, that ran from the eastern side of the Ural Mountains to Kazakhstan, was drying out, so that when Graham emerged from under the truck he wasn't quite as muddy and wet as he was the first time. "Everything seems fine, Dave. Can't see anything wrong," and there was that again, that great big Jesus grin. Pops knew that if it wasn't for Graham and the rest of the team, there wouldn't be any All for Jesus missions. "Okay, let's go," shouted Pops as he fired up the truck. Because it was a decent bit of road that morning, the truck was able to whiz along at 25 miles an hour. Sometimes the road was so bad that the team could walk alongside the truck to stretch their legs. But after 10 minutes, Pops knew something still wasn't right. "If it's not the brakes, check the trailer coupling," Pops shouted, as yet again he brought the truck to a halt. "I'll go," said Marcus. Graham's still changing his clothes. Pops decided to get Marcus to walk between the truck and the trailer to see if there were any movement in the coupling. Suddenly Marcus appeared in Pops's driving mirror, frantically waving his arms and shouting, "Stop, stop, come and see this." By the way, it's not recommended that anybody should walk between a 16-ton truck and a 16-ton trailer, especially on a dirt track in the middle of Siberia. What Pops saw made his stomach churn, and he had a pretty strong stomach. The big 7x4-inch steel that the trailer coupling was bolted to had completely broken its weld on one side of the chassis and was swaying backward and forth with the movement of the trailer. If Marcus hadn't spotted it then, at that moment, the trailer could have ripped away from the truck and caused a horrific accident. The trailer had to be unhitched immediately so that the truck could go on in search of someone who could repair it enough to travel the 4,000 plus miles back to the UK. There was one small problem though: which way to go? The team hadn't seen anyone or anything in 2 days. Because the Russian authorities had made sure there was no reliable maps to buy for security reasons, the only map Pops and the team had was a souvenir map Marcus had bought years ago on a school trip to St. Petersburg that showed the whole of the USSR on a piece of paper no bigger than a handkerchief. Good old Marcus. They just knew that if they kept heading west, eventually they would hit Moscow. Pops decided to keep heading west, hoping that sooner or later they would come across a town or a village with someone capable of doing the repairs. It was decided that Chris and Clive would stay in the Land Rover and guard the trailer. Pops made sure they had enough food and drink to last them at least 3 days. "We don't know how long we will be, so go easy on the food, and of course you can sleep in the trailer." "Oh, don't worry about us, we'll be fine," said Clive. Pops looked at Clive and knew they would be. "Yes, boss, we'll be fine," Chris repeated, with half an eye on all that lovely food. And so Pops, with the rest of the team, jumped in the truck and set off to find a welder. The team were unusually quiet, probably praying. Pops thought that the Lord would look after Clive and Chris. Bev, Clive's wife, was probably praying that Chris wouldn't eat Clive. Suddenly the Spirit spoke to Pops. "There's a track on your right, turn down it now." Immediately there was a track. Pops swung the truck right, and after 200 or 300 yards, a huge quarry opened up in front of them. Pops pulled up in front of a wooden hut that looked like some kind of office, with 5 men sitting on a bench leaning against the wall of the hut. Pops jumped down from the truck, and one of the men said in perfect English, "Can I help you?" "Yes, please, we need a truck repairing," replied Pops. "Can I help you?" was the only English this man spoke, and Pops knew it was time for Joe and her talking bag to take over. Over the years, Joe had compiled notebooks full of the words she had picked up from hundreds of conversations in dozens of countries. So, with the help of Graham holding an imaginary welding rod and doing zer noises, and Joe using her amazing ability to communicate, the men saw the problem and said that yes, they could fix it. With the help of sign language and Joe's speaking book, the people in the office explained that some of the big equipment was down and none of the men, including the welders, were able to do their work and said they were very happy to help the English people. A lucky coincidence, they said. Jo said she believed it was God who had arranged that the welders would be free to help the English with their problem. It took no longer than a couple of hours before the welding was completed, and as far as Jo and the team could understand, all the welders, plus everyone in the office, had received the Lord with much joy and tears. After exchanging gifts, a couple of Nana's fruitcakes for the quarry people and a bottle of vodka for the team, a first-class substitute for antifreeze, Pops turned round and headed back to Clive, Chris and the trailer. What Pops was expecting to take at least 2 days had taken less than 4 hours. Jesus said, "Go make disciples of all nations, and I am with you always." He had proved himself yet again totally faithful. After arriving back in Liverpool, Pops told this story to a friend of his, Alan, who had done a lot of the work on the truck and trailer. Alan told him that because the Russian welders were used to very heavy machinery, they were the perfect men to repair the truck, and the job they did could not have been done better. Clive told Pops some months later that as soon as the truck disappeared, Chris became very hungry, and by the time the truck returned, all the 2 days' supply of food had been eaten. Pops said he was just glad he didn't eat Clive. Chris is still going for Jesus, working in the township in South Africa, a disciple with a heart as big as a football and a huge appetite for the glory of God.